Imagine, just for a second, a multi-million-dollar robbery executed in broad daylight. We're talking no guns, no masks, no getaway cars, and the craziest part, not a single law was broken. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at what might literally be one of the most audacious masterstrokes in modern history. We're stepping back to June 1975, to the Bellastown Racecourse in Ireland, to witness a heist built entirely on patience, intellect, and a massive system loophole. Okay, let's dive into this. When you and I think of massive payouts, we usually picture, drilling into casino vaults or some high-tech bank hack. But the guy we're looking at today, Barney Curley, he didn't crack a physical safe. No, he cracked a system vault using nothing but his mind. See, he wasn't a criminal. He was a strategic genius who figured out that if you understand the rules better than the people who wrote them, you don't actually need to break them. You just have to weaponize them to your advantage. Section 1. The perfect legal heist. To really grasp how this unprecedented event went down, we first need to set the scene. It's June 26, 1975, in a tiny Irish village called Bellastown. The local racecourse is absolutely buzzing with excitement. But our mastermind, Barney Curley, he's nowhere near the grandstands. He is literally hiding inside a patch of thorny bushes, peering out through binoculars. Why? Because the bookies absolutely despise this guy. Barney's reputation in the gambling world was so notorious that if the bookies even caught a glimpse of his shadow, they'd instantly shut down all the betting. He was a walking red flag. So he waits in the dirt, completely out of sight.
Section 2. A Father's Dark Legacy.
And this brilliantly illustrates a crucial turning point. I mean, what actually drives someone to orchestrate a high-stakes, nerve-wracking operation from the bushes? Well, it comes down to a really stark contrast between two generations. Barney's dad, Charlie, was also a gambler, but he relied on totally illegal, disastrous methods. Charlie would train greyhounds, secretly drug his slowest dogs to make them run incredibly fast, and then bet all his money on them. It was a dirty, cheating game. Barney, on the other hand, completely despised those methods. He decided early on that to truly beat the system, you couldn't cheat it. You had to outsmart it legally by finding the hidden gaps in their very own rulebooks. Barney's backstory is honestly straight out of a movie. At age 15, his dad ordered him to feed drugged meat to a dog. Barney flat out refused, secretly bet on a different dog, and made his first profit while his dad lost. But then, tragedy hits. A year later, in 1956, his dad's drugged dog collapses with a broken spine. The family is instantly plunged into just crippling debt. Barney actually has to quit school and sweat it out in a factory for 18 months just to pay off these ruthless bookies. Fast forward to the 1970s. After failed stints in pub management and even some border smuggling, Barney finds himself 12,000 pounds in the hole. He is desperate. But this time, he has a master plan. Section 3. Engineering the system loophole. So to dig himself out of this massive debt, Barney knew he couldn't just rely on luck. He had to engineer a situation where winning was a mathematical certainty. It was like a giant puzzle, and the setup was a three-step masterpiece. First, he buys a horse with a notoriously terrible record and names it Yellow Sam, which, ironically, was his father's old nickname. Second, he deliberately enters Yellow Sam into races with muddy, awful ground conditions that the horse absolutely hated. Naturally, the horse lost spectacularly, race after race, which tanked its official rating to rock bottom. Finally, because the rating was so embarrassingly bad, it easily qualified for the Mount Hanover Handicap Hurdle. And guess what? This race was held on exactly the type of firm ground Yellow Sam actually loved to run on. The trap was officially set. Now here is the brilliant technical loophole. Back in the 1970s, off-track betting shops across Ireland would use the telephone to call the on-track bookies if a massive amount of money suddenly dropped on one horse. The track bookies would then immediately lower the odds to protect themselves. But the system had a fatal flaw. The rules stated that once the race officially started, the odds were locked. So Barney realizes, wait a minute, if the off-track shops physically cannot call the track bookies to warn them, those high payout odds are going to remain totally frozen. Section 4. Blocking the only phone. With the loophole clearly identified, Barney faced an absolute logistical nightmare. I mean, how do you stop a nationwide network of bookies from communicating with the racetrack? Well, you target the weakest link. He noticed something unbelievable about the Bellastown track. It only had a single, solitary public phone booth. One. To exploit this, he essentially deployed a small army.
He carefully selects 300 accomplices and scatters them across betting shops all over Ireland. He hands out envelopes containing between 50 and 300 pounds, literally draining his entire life savings of 15,000 pounds. And he gives them strict orders. Wait until the absolute last possible minute to place your bets on Yellow Sam.
Now, what's really interesting about this tactic is the sheer psychological audacity of it. Exactly 25 minutes before the race starts, Barney's trusted friend Benny steps into that single public phone booth at the track. He picks up the receiver and just fakes an absolute meltdown. He pretends his beloved aunt is on her deathbed, crying hysterically into the phone. The bookies lining up behind him are getting frantic, right? They're demanding the phone so they can call in the changing odds, but Benny just refuses to hang up, totally ignoring their threats for 25 agonizing minutes. While Benny is supposedly weeping in the booth, Barney's 300 accomplices flood betting shops across the country with 15,000 pounds in cold, hard cash. The shop managers completely panic and frantically try to call the track to lower Yellow Sam's odds. But they can't get through. The line is busy. Because of Benny's incredible acting chops, the track bookies are completely blind to this tidal wave of money hitting the off-track shops. And as a result, Yellow Sam's phenomenal payout rate gets locked in at a staggering 20-1. From his hiding spot in those thorny bushes, Barney watches the whole thing unfold. Just as he mathematically predicted, Yellow Sam, finally running on his preferred firm ground against low-rated horses, is an absolute powerhouse. The horse easily clears 13 hurdles, literally leaves the crowd favorite Silver Road in the dust, and wins by 2.5 lengths. The exact moment the horse crosses that finish line, Benny the actor suddenly feels a whole lot better, hangs up the phone, and quietly vanishes into the roaring crowd. Section 5. Gambler to Robin Hood. The heist was a total, monumental success, but the payout? It was catastrophic for the bookies. Barney's 15,000-pound investment yielded a return of 300,000 pounds. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of about $3.5 million today. The bookies were absolutely humiliated and they were enraged. Out of sheer spite, they refused to pay Barney in large bills. Instead, they paid him entirely in single one-pound notes. It literally took 108 massive bags filled with pound notes to haul away the winnings. He had completely drained them. Crucially, though, when the furious authorities investigated the whole thing, they found absolutely nothing illegal. Barney didn't drug a horse. He didn't bribe a jockey. And, well, making a really long, dramatic phone call isn't actually a crime. He broke 0 laws. The gambling system was so deeply humiliated by this that they were forced to rewrite their own rulebook right then and there. They immediately implemented a mandatory 30-minute delay for any large bets before a race, just to ensure this kind of communication blackout could never, ever be weaponized against them again. But look at the incredible arc of Barney Curley's life here. He started as a desperate son, just trying to dig his family out of the generational debt caused by his father's illegal mistakes. He mastered a system loophole, proved his absolute sheer intellect, and wiped his debts completely clean. But instead of just hoarding all this new wealth, Barney spent the rest of his life using his massive gambling fortunes to fund charities and build schools in poverty-stricken nations. He continued to legally outsmart bookies well into his 70s, remaining virtually undefeated until he passed away in 2021 at the age of 81. So the crucial point is this. Upon his death, the racing world didn't remember Barney Curley as a cheat or a villain. They remembered him as a genius and the Robin Hood of racing. He took from a system that was fundamentally rigged against the everyday person, and he gave to those who had absolutely nothing. It leaves us with a really fascinating thought to ponder, doesn't it? When a system is inherently designed to take our money, is the person who legally outsmarts it a rogue, or are they the ultimate hero? Let us know what you think.